Hey friends, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking through several questions that I have gotten recently. Gotten a lot of good questions, and so I thought it was time to do a little Q&A and go over some of them. Before we get started, I want to say a big thank you to Element, who is the sponsor of the Q&A video today. Element has been a big supporter of my channel over the last few years, and I'm very grateful. I love that on my channel, I am able to bring in sponsors that truly resonate with me and are products that I actually use on a daily basis. Element is definitely one of them. If you've never heard of Element, Element is an electrolyte supplement. It comes in these cute little packets. They're super nice for throwing in your purse, in your bag, having them on the go. Each packet contains a scientifically backed ratio of electrolytes of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. They also come in all kinds of delicious flavors, both fruity, refreshing flavors and warm, cozy, chocolatey flavors that are great for this time of year. If you would like to give Element a try, you can get a free sample pack just by using my link, drinkelement.com/indigo, drinklmnt.com/indigo. Click that link, head over to the website and place an order for anything on the website. And if you clicked my link, you will automatically get that free sample pack added to your order. The free sample pack has 2 sticks of each of their 4 most popular fruity flavors. It's a great way to try them out or to pass on Element to a friend. Thanks again to Element for sponsoring today. Okay, now into the questions. We'll start with the funnest question at the beginning here. This question comes from Keto Life Granny Audrey, and it was on the video where I shared some things that have changed about my life and myself since I have gone from keto to a high carb diet. And the comment says, "Wow, I'm so disappointed. Is this change due to increased subs or sponsors? Wish you well. Bye-bye." So I'm assuming that Keto Life Granny Audrey will not see this response to her question, but if anyone else was curious, I thought I would respond to it. First of all, I find it funny that she's asking if this change is due to increased subs or sponsors on a video where I detailed lots of health benefits that I have seen since going from keto to high carb. So maybe she just thinks that I'm lying and I don't really have these health benefits, and my, sneaky motive is just to get increased subscribers and sponsors. But my response is, I'm doing it because I've seen health benefits. I didn't achieve the health that I wanted on the keto diet. I have experimented with all kinds of different things, different levels of different macros, and I saw a lot of increased health benefits going high carb, and so that's what I'm exploring. I'm not saying that this is the ultimate best diet for everyone. I'm not even saying it's the ultimate best diet for me. All I'm saying is this is what I'm experimenting with right now because this is what I'm seeing results with right now. It could totally change. And back when I was on keto, I said many, many times that next week my diet could be different. I could change things up. I am not a channel that is an educational channel I was never an educational channel about keto. I always tried to make that clear. This channel has always been about my own journey and just whatever I am into at the time. And my channel didn't even start out with me on the keto diet. I've done many diets over the last 14 years that I've had my channel, and I have, cataloged all of them. The Trim Healthy Mama diet, I did paleo and Whole30, and I even did a juice cleanse thing, like a week-long juice cleanse that I talked about 10 years ago or so. So my channel has always been about whatever I happen to be doing at the time. I have never named my channel anything to do with keto or carnivore because it's always just been about whatever I am interested in at the time. Also, I will mention that on YouTube, staying to a specific subject is the best strategy for growth. It's not a great idea if you have a channel to be switching topics, going to different things. The YouTube algorithm just does not like that. The YouTube algorithm wants you to stay in your lane, and they will push videos that align with whatever lane that is. So deciding to step out of keto when I had been getting, views on egg white bread and keto recipes and things like that, stepping away from that is actually a big step away from subscribers and views. Now, when you are switching and you post things like, I went from keto to high carb, here's what's changed, you get some rage views for sure. And it sounds like maybe Keto Life Granny Audrey was one of those rage views. And so you can see like some views go up on videos like that. But overall, just like everyday videos, I have seen my views go down. And those rage views do help that one video to get, views. And especially when they leave angry comments, that, helps the algorithm and helps that video out. But usually those kinds of viewers are not viewers that come back and are regularly watching and actually, subscribers that add value to my channel. So overall, I have seen my subscribers go down. I've lost, every time I post a video about going high carb, I lose another, big handful of subscribers. I do have, other subscribers that are coming. So it's kind of evening out. I'm not seeing my subscribers like consistently go down, but I am seeing that I lose a bunch of subscribers and then I'm slowly building them back up with other subscribers. So overall, since I have started high carb, my growth has really flatlined on YouTube. It has not been helpful at all. So if I did go high carb for subscribers and for views, I made a bad call. And if I was in it for subscribers, I would for sure be going back to keto and carnivore and posting all kinds of egg white bread recipe videos again. Because I know if I do that, my views will go straight up. And then as far as switching for more sponsors, that also is kind of a laughable accusation because I have been in the keto world for the last, 4 or 5 years, and the companies that I work with are all keto friendly. I don't have low fat companies knocking down my door trying to give me bunches of money to promote their products. That's just not a reality. And the reality is I have moved away from using a lot of the keto products that I was using. I still use them. I just use them a lot less because I'm eating a much lower fat diet. So a lot of times they don't fit in as much. So my diet has gone a lot more actually towards whole foods because I'm eating lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, whole grains, meats and eggs and seafood and things like that. And there's just not quite as much room for products. So again, if I was making this move to, snag new sponsors, I really am not a very good business person because it's really not working out. All right, now on to some other questions. And actually the rest of the questions have to do with protein. I had a lot of people interested in what I'm doing with protein and my thoughts on protein. And so that's what we're gonna focus on here. One question was asking about how I break down protein per meal. Churl Z, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but she was asking, I'd love to see your protein breakdown per meal. Did you eat, this is on a What I Eat in a Day video, did you eat almost all of your 105 grams of protein at dinner? The reason I ask is because eating protein makes me unbelievably exhausted and I'd love to wait until later in the day to start eating it, but having more than 30 to 35 grams of protein in one sitting seems so hard to choke down and possibly not ideal for digestion. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Okay, so I've kind of been playing around with the protein and trying different things to see how it affects me. And so I was doing like the fruit fasting in the morning and not having much protein at all before noon or, as far as 3 p.m. And I've switched that up and I have a few reasons for that. But first I want to say that don't forget basically all whole foods have some protein in them. So unless you're using like really purified forms of food, like just white sugar or just oil or something like that, if you're eating a whole food, it's going to be coming with carbs, protein, and fat just in varying amounts. So even when I'm eating just fruit throughout the morning, I'm still getting a few grams of protein in that fruit. So when I was doing that fruit fasting in the morning, what I found was I had a hard time getting all the protein I wanted to get in later in the day. because I was eating one meal, like later in the afternoon that had protein in it. And then I wasn't hungry for more. And so I was finding myself ending up with like 50, 60 grams of protein and really wanting to get at least 80 grams of protein in the day. If not, up to 100. And so I was like, I don't think this is going to work for me long term. I kind of had this idea when I did my sugar fasting experiment back in May. I dropped weight really, really fast. And I was like, oh, well, I could use this tool to drop weight and then, then add back the protein. Obviously, I didn't want to stay on any kind of a sugar fast diet long term, or low protein diet long term. I value protein a lot. And, especially as I'm aging, I want to make sure I keep as much muscle as possible. So I was like, well, maybe I can use this as a tool and then get back to the eating more protein. I found that the weight loss part of it was very much initial and that weight loss did not continue. And so once I saw that the weight loss was not continuing like that, I was like, well, I shouldn't be on this low of protein long term. And so I really kind of switched things up. So I started having, a protein lunch like at noon and then having a protein dinner. And so that way I was able to split up my protein and have like 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. And then that plus whatever protein was in the other foods that I was eating throughout the day, I was getting 80 to 100 grams of protein pretty easily. Then I started experimenting with something else. One thing that I found, and this was some information from my Ultrahuman ring that I got, one of the metrics that the ring tracks as far as sleep is what point in the night your heart rate goes the lowest. And they say you want your lowest heart rate to be earlier in the night, and that allows for more restorative sleep the rest of the night. And I was finding that my heart rate dropped late pretty much every single night. Like 3, 4 in the morning when you really would want it, closer to 11 or midnight or something like that. And so I experimented with different things to try to get that heart rate drop to be earlier. And I found that not having a protein and fat heavy meal later helped me get that heart rate drop earlier in the night. So if I had my last protein and fat meal around 3 or 4 p.m. at the latest, then I was more likely to get that heart rate drop earlier. And so I think it just has to do with digestion and the protein and the fat. It just takes longer to digest. And so my body is still working on it. Even if I'm having, 2 or 3 hours before bed, still that wasn't enough time for maybe my digestion to really work through everything and get that heart rate drop earlier in the night. So what I found was if I moved my protein meals earlier in the day and then had my last one, maybe 3 or 4 p.m. And then after that, if I was hungry before bed, which that's a pretty long time till bed, if I was hungry, just to have a fruit snack, have a piece of fruit or 2, but keep it, very quick digesting food. I was still able to see that heart rate drop earlier. So I didn't have to fully fast all the way until bed, like an early time restricted feeding. Although I think that would work as well. But I found if I just, had some fruit there in the evening time as kind of my last food of the day, then my digestion, it kind of worked through everything and I got that heart rate drop earlier and then had that more time for restorative sleep. So that's been something that I've been playing with. So that's why I've kind of moved away from doing the fruit fasting in the morning for as long as possible. And I've moved my protein meals earlier in the day and then had maybe more time before bed where I'm not having the heavy fat and protein. So that is a very long-winded answer. So the way that my days have been breaking down is when I wake up first in the morning, I have fruit within 30 minutes of waking up. I don't really feel like eating a heavy protein meal at that point at all. Fruit feels right to have first thing in the morning. So I have that, I have my coffee, and then a little bit later after my workout, I will have my first meal. And so it's 9 or 10 a.m. usually. And in that meal, I go ahead and have protein. It's usually recently been steel cut oats with Greek yogurt as the protein in there, maybe a little collagen mixed in. So I get a protein meal there. And then I will eat another protein meal, between noon and 1 or 2. And then some days I need 3 full meals, and some days I just have the 2 meals, and then I have, kind of snack on fruit if I get hungry later in the evening. So my meals are actually breaking down to, around 30 grams of protein per meal, which is, very commonly recommended. I'm often eating 3 meals a day. Like, it's very well-rounded and balanced and normal. I don't feel like it's anything weird. So I'm having my fruit in the morning, 2 to 3 protein and fat meals. And by fat meals, I don't mean that they are high fat. I just mean that's where I have my fat for the day. And my fat for the day comes in usually around 30 to 40 grams per day. So I'll have, 10 or 15 grams per meal usually. And then if I'm hungry in the evening before bed, I will have some kind of a fruit. That's just kind of how my days are looking now. And it's just easy. It feels very natural, and I'm able to get in plenty of protein, but I don't have to shove it all in one meal. So that's what's been working out for me right now. Again, I'm always experimenting and kind of like trying things out, seeing what's going to work for my body. And right now that's what's working out. I've also been asked several times recently how many grams of protein I'm eating per day. And so back when I was doing the sugar diet, I was down to maybe 60 to 80 grams per day, a lot of days. And, like I said before, I was fine with that if it was going to be kind of a temporary thing, like using this as a tool and then moving on to a more, regular baseline diet. Since I kind of let go of that idea, it didn't quite work out. I don't want my protein that low consistently. So I have increased my protein, and having, 2 or 3 meals with protein makes it very easy for me to get in plenty of protein. So my protein has actually been coming in around 100 grams, and sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. So it'll be up to, 120 grams or so, down to 80 grams on some days where I'm, just not focusing on protein quite as much, or only have the 2 meals or whatever. But I'm very happy with that. Like, I'm really comfortable with 100 grams of protein, give or take, for the long term. There might be a time where I decide to up it even higher. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is one suggestion. I'm probably at around 1 gram of protein per pound of lean mass at this point, which is also very widely accepted as a healthy amount of protein. So I'm very happy with that, and it's working out. As far as my strength and my muscle mass, I have not noticed any decrease in strength. I have not seen any decrease in lean mass on, my Hume scale that I have. So not really worried about muscle loss at this point. Last question, also about protein, says, I'm curious if the decrease in protein macros has any effect either positively or negatively or both. Okay, so my thoughts on this, just real quick, is that if someone is struggling with severe insulin resistance, I think there are some ways that reducing protein for a time and fat, I think fat is the most important thing to reduce as far as insulin sensitivity goes. That's what I have seen. When I brought my fat down, my insulin sensitivity went through the roof. But I have heard very smart people say that protein restriction can help with that as well. So I think it's one of those things where you can do it for a time. For me, when I did that sugar diet experiment where I went low protein and low fat for a time, it really regulated my blood sugar. And I don't have an insulin monitor, so I can't know for sure what it did to my insulin. But based on what I saw it do in my blood sugar, I feel like my insulin sensitivity has to have increased, because I was eating 200 grams of carbs per day before, and my A1C was 5.3. Now, about 4 months later, I'm eating 400 grams of carbs per day around, and that's double what I was eating before, and my A1C has dropped to 5.2. So my body is handling the carbs really efficiently, and handling carbs efficiently means insulin sensitivity in my understanding. So I feel like my body has become more insulin sensitive through this process of lowering fat, lowering protein for a time. And then now I am able to eat, that 100 or more grams of protein per day, and I'm still seeing the same insulin sensitivity level. Like my blood sugar is still very regulated, even with that little bit more protein. So my guess is that going through that period of lower protein was helpful. I don't know for sure, but I have heard people say that lowering protein for a time can be helpful in recovering insulin sensitivity. You can listen to the guys at Mastering Diabetes. I've also heard Jay Feldman mention that. So that's just kind of, my thoughts on that. I hope that answered some of your questions, especially if you had burning questions about my subscribers and my sponsors and all about protein. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I will just see you again in the next video.